Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to talk to you about what I plan on reading in August 2022. In case you hear any kind of a difference in my voice, that's because I am recovering from COVID. I had a very mild case, and I think I can say that I am now firmly over it. I just have this lingering unpleasantness. So if you hear me sounding different, that's why. But during my recovery process, in order to cheer myself up, I picked out some absolutely amazing sounding books that I plan on reading in August. So let's talk about what those are. Let's start off by discussing fiction. My classic book that I want to read during the month of August is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. This is the epic Spanish classic that I absolutely cannot believe I have not read yet. I put it on my Classics TBR for this year, and in the comment section of that Classics TBR video, one of you suggested that I read it during the summer months. And I picked August because June and July were very busy, so August was the month that was left over. This is going to take me a while to get through, so I'm glad I don't have a ton of plans for the month of August, but I think I'm going to have a blast with this one. But I'm also expecting to have a lot of fun with these next two books I'm going to tell you about because I have plans to read them with other people. So first, I'm going to be buddy reading The Blues Walked In by Kathleen George with Denise over at La Rosa Reads. We both attended the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books back in May. We went to a few of the same events, and one of those events was Kathleen George's event. We heard her read from this book. This is historical fiction that is at least partially set here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it turns the real-life blues singer Lena Horne into a character. It tells the story of her life, it tells the story of her music. We heard Kathleen George read pieces of this during that event, and we both knew that this needed to be our next buddy read. I have really high hopes for this one. I think we're both really going to have a good time with it, although I'm definitely not expecting it to have the same impact on either of us that Billy Porter's memoir did, which is the last book we buddy read together. Denise and I were both head over heels in love with that memoir the entire way through, but I think because this one is set in Pittsburgh and because we did hear pieces of it while we were together, I do think we're going to have a good time with it. But then I'm also loosely going to be buddy reading Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid with a non-booktube person. I'm going to be buddy reading this with my best friend from college. I got her hooked on Taylor Jenkins Reid a few years ago. I remember forcing her to buy The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I know she also loved Daisy Jones and the Six. I forget which one came first, but she fell in love with Taylor Jenkins Reid and her books after that, so much so that she actually came out here to Pittsburgh to go to a Taylor Jenkins Reid event with me this previous November, which is where we both got these hardcover copies. But because we're both busy people, neither one of us has actually read this book yet, so we figured it's about time that we read it, especially since TJR's new book comes out at the end of August. So we're going to loosely read this at the same time, and then once we're done, we're going to have a virtual boozy book club meeting, just the two of us. I'm assuming I'll feel up to having a glass of wine by that point. I definitely don't right now, but I'm really looking forward to finally getting to this, not just because it's going to be really fun to read it at the same time as my best friend, but also I kind of need to read this because I'm pretty sure I'm reviewing her newest book, and I think there's some crossover between the two of them. So this is for fun and for research. All the rest of the books I plan on reading in August, I'll be taking on solo. The next one is called The Great Passage by Shion Miura, and this is a really charming sounding little book all about a group of people who work at a publishing house who are trying to create their own dictionary. For whatever reason, lately I've been consuming a ton of Japanese media, so I've been watching Japanese shows, reading Japanese books, so adding this to my TBR just kind of felt like a logical extension of that. Another very short novel that I would like to get through in August is Zori by Laird Hunt. And it's my understanding that in this book, an elderly Midwestern woman tells her entire life story. And I've heard a lot of praise for this one, especially when it comes to the writing. And I feel like it's been such a long time since I've read a novel where the writing just completely takes my breath away. So I really want to get to this one, and it's so short, I can probably blow through this one in just an afternoon. But then the final work of fiction on my August TBR is none other than my most anticipated work of fiction of the entire year. It is Mercury Pictures Presents by Anthony Marra. Anthony Marra is the author of A Constellation of Vital Phenomena. He's also the author of one of my all-time favorite works of fiction, The Tsar of Love and Techno, and I have been waiting for this new book since 2015. It's about an Italian woman working at a struggling film studio in 1940s Los Angeles, and she becomes involved in the European émigré community, which, suffice it to say, becomes very complex as the world begins to descend into World War II. I can't even put into words how much I've been looking forward to this book. When I say I've been waiting since 2015, it means that I've known he's been working on a new novel since 2015, because I knew he won a grant to support him while he wrote a new novel, and I have been looking for any news of him, this book, his writing process ever since. And it is finally here. I already know my expectations for this new novel are far too high. Like, if this is not a new favorite, of all time, I will probably be devastated. But there are very few authors that I am willing to put my heart on a platter for in the way I am willing to for Anthony Marra. If I end up heartbroken, it honestly will have been worth it. I am so looking forward to this. Second only to my reviewing work, this is my top priority for August. But since I just spoke about my most anticipated fiction book of the year so far, I felt it only appropriate to now talk about my most anticipated nonfiction book of 2022, which ironically also comes out in August. It's called The Fisherman and the Dragon by Kirk Wallace Johnson. This is a history book all about a violent conflict in the 1970s between fishermen on the Texas Gulf Coast and Vietnamese refugees who were living in the same area. It's a situation I know next to nothing about, so I'm definitely eager to learn more, but I'm especially excited about this book because it's by the author of The Feather Thief, which is a unicorn of a nonfiction book in my personal opinion. Even people who don't normally read nonfiction books were picking up that book because it got such a reputation of being fascinating and really well done, which I found it to be both of those things. I loved that book. I love how much other people loved that book. I love how many people it brought into the nonfiction genre. So I've been really looking forward to reading his next book. I am so happy to own this too. Thank you so much to the people over at Viking for offering to send me this copy after they saw me enthusing about it in my latest anticipated releases video. But now onto the remaining 3 nonfiction books on this August TBR, all 3 of which are backlist. This first one, I am frankly embarrassed that I haven't read this book yet. It's Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan. This is an extremely popular memoir in which the author discusses an almost unbelievable 1-month period of her life when she was in her 20s, when she was hospitalized with what seemed like a mental break, but something was actually going very wrong inside her brain, medically speaking. This, I would say, is another one of those sensational nonfiction books that even people who normally don't read nonfiction have picked up and read because it is so popular and people want to be in on the conversation. And yet I, a nonfiction reader, have not read this. And this is not the only book like this either. There are so many really popular nonfiction books out there that I haven't read for no good reason. And I really just want to finally read them. So I guess that's my new project. Since I finished up the Meg Wolitzer backlist project, I don't have a project going on right now. Reading these books that I am totally late to the party on is going to be my next project. So this will be the next one I check off that list. But since we are now firmly in hurricane season, I also thought I would pick up A Furious Sky by Eric J. Dolan. And this book is the history, or the recorded history anyway, of hurricanes in North America over the past 500 years. I've been lucky enough never to experience the full force of a hurricane, but I have lived on the East Coast my entire life, and so they've been a topic of discussion, we'll say. I've always wanted to learn more about them, and this felt like the perfect time of year to do so. And then finally, the last nonfiction book on my TBR, the last book on my TBR period, is another ocean-related one, and that is The Whale by Philip Hoare. The author of this book is absolutely obsessed obsessed with whales, partially because of the book Moby Dick, the classic by Herman Melville. And so in this book, he discusses the human relationship with whales, but also discusses the natural history of whales themselves. Ever since reading and loving Fathoms by Rebecca Giggs, which I reviewed here on the channel back in 2020 in case you're interested, I've wanted to read even more about whales. They are fascinating creatures. And since summer is beginning to draw to a close, August is the last full month of summer, my window for reading about nautical things is as well, since I like to read about nautical things exclusively during the summer. So I'm going to squeeze this last one in before I start to turn my eye to more autumnal reads in September. But those are all the books I have on the docket for the month of August. Between all of these books that I'm reading for my personal reading, and then all the books I'll be reading for my written reviews, I'll definitely be keeping busy. But since I'm feeling better day after day, I'm pretty sure I'll be up to the challenge. If you have any comments or questions about any of these books or anything in general, I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. Links to all the books I mentioned in today's video will be in the description box below for your clicking convenience. And at the bottom of that exact same description box, you'll see links to everywhere you can find me around the internet, like Goodreads and Instagram, the two places I'm the most active, in case you would like to keep up with what I am reading and writing about right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.